Hello, 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 everyone. So if you're joining us, if you can, we are recording, just to let you know, but this is not being streamed, live anywhere else. It's here in Zoom. We will share this with the community. But we love to see your beautiful faces. And so just look into the camera and just give it a little nod. I see you ladies. I see you ladies. All right. So as always, we're going to start with a quick meditation. We're going to get centered because I know more women will probably be joining us. And the instruction for you, if you can turn off distractions so that you really can be here and be present. We're going to celebrate these women, and celebrating these women, they're getting married. We're also celebrating you as women committed to love, and I'm just so happy to have this community and so that we can uplift one another. And if you're hearing a woman and you're thinking, wow, I would love to have what she has, then know by her having it, it's something that you can have. So without further ado, we're going to go, as I said, in a meditation. When I come out of the meditation, then I'll be able to kind of accept more women in as they come. So let's go ahead and close our eyes, turning inward, taking some nice deep breath in. Coming into the body, into the breath. I want you to start to pay attention to your heart space. Noticing the rise and fall of your chest. Connecting you more deeply to what matters in life, which is matters of the heart. As we gather in sisterhood this evening, we create a sisterhood of love, a sisterhood to uplift you and support you wherever you are in this journey of love. We ask that your hearts be open and ready to receive the love that's present right here, right now for you. Feeling that light emanate from your heart as we connect in this sisterhood. And we uplift and celebrate Sheila and Karen tonight in their engagements as they take the next step with their fiancés in a lifelong love. And then when you're ready, you can go ahead and open your eyes, coming back into this room of beautiful sisterhood. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're just joining us, go ahead and look into the eyes of the sisters you see on the video, shaking your head. I see you. I love you, ladies. We know that love, if it's not already here in the physical for you, it is coming. So, without further ado, we've got two guests. We've got Karen. And Karen, you want to raise your hand so everyone can see? So there's Karen. And then Sheila, raising your hand. And so Sheila and Karen both have beautiful stories. These are women that I've worked with. I've been so blessed to watch where they began when we started working together and then where they are now. I mean, here are two ladies who have awesome love stories. And so you're going to hear their stories tonight. And we'll start with Karen. And then we'll move to Sheila. We'll kind of go back and forth. I also want to let you know this is an opportunity to ask questions. So let me orient you to the bottom screen. We are in COVID so much. There are people that, are quite familiar now with Zoom. Like raise your hand if Zoom has kind of become your life. Like you're meeting friends and doing work. Yeah, for a lot of people, it's like, oh, here we are again, join us in Zoom. But what a gift when we can't gather in person. And so anyway, at the bottom of the screen, if you're not familiar with it, you have a little button you could click reaction. So if you want to click reactions, you can see a thumbs up and see a clapping of the hands. So go ahead and someone click and let's see if it works. Oh yeah, okay, fantastic. So those are working. All right, wonderful. And then chat, we also have a chat box. I'm flying solo tonight, so I will do my best to respond to chat as I see as I'm having conversations and looking down. So chat is a way that you can communicate. I love it when you raise your hand. So in the screen, there should be a place. If you on the bottom, you click participants. Okay, it should be the same for you. You click participants, and there is a place where you can raise your hand. Do you ladies see that?
Yep.
Okay, you find your number, your name, and there's a place to mute, unmute, right? All right, so we're all good. So we want this to be an engaging conversation tonight. All right, so I'm gonna, and if I get background noise, I'll just go ahead and mute. But also feel free to like visually just go like this for me. Like if you know you need to ask a question and I'm not seeing it, I'm gonna do the best I can tonight. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and start with Karen. So Karen, wow. I am just so thrilled to have you here. And I have had the pleasure of knowing Karen for, how long has it been since we met? It's been a while, right?
Yeah, like 5 years.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And Karen is actually local here in Colorado. So I've actually had the opportunity to meet her in person and really get to know her and be her coach and her champion in life and in love. She's incredibly bright. She had, when she came to me, she's a mama and she is a very successful woman in business. And, she was, lots of things were going on in your life when we first met. And I really stepped in as a life coach for you. And, why don't we start with having you kind of share with us what you remember about what life was like when we start working together.
Sure. Yeah. When you and I met and we started working together, I think I was out of balance in all areas of my life and having issues, financially, health, emotionally, relationships, you name it, I was struggling with it. I was divorced after a marriage of nearly 20 years. I was single parenting, not co-parenting, single parenting because he had substance abuse issues. So he was not helping at all. There was no alimony. There was no child support. There was nothing that way. And then on top of that, he never let go. So I was his person. So anytime he went missing or he had a health issue or anything, I was the one, the police would call me to say, okay, there's been a health check and we can't find him. Do you know where he is? And those kind of things. So it was just a continuous drain. In my haste to let him know that I had moved on, I got myself into a relationship with someone that you and I decided was a great teacher. He was.
You want to just pause for a second and let these women that have not heard of that reference of a teacher in life, in relationships. What do you mean by a teacher?
It was a one-sided relationship where everything was my fault and I was the one that had to do all the changes, and he was continuously threatening to leave me and saying things like, I just don't know if I'm going to make it, I don't know if I can do this, and those kind of things. So I was continuously in a situation where I felt I had to prove myself to him. And what I learned out of that, though, is that every time I was proving myself to him, I was also proving myself to myself. And I was actually learning and growing and becoming stronger, even though he was trying to tear me down. So it was life lessons around learning to recognize my signals, as far as recognizing a red flag and knowing how my body reacts to it, so that I knew what it was when I saw it in other places. So it was quite a learning experience.
Yeah. It's like what we do in coaching. We do something called reframe. So as you're sharing your story, I'm also gonna. Is it okay that we kind of coach as as you're sharing? Yeah. So the ladies, really get what she's talking about. So you'll hear women who I've worked with say, "Oh yeah, I had a teacher," And it's kind of like a teacher. I'm not quite sure what she's talking about. So one of the things that we do is we do something called a reframe, where you may have had somebody in your life who you were in a relationship with, and it was really hard. It was really hard. Maybe they put you down, maybe there was some level of abuse. Maybe they were, narcissistic. It was all about them. We have different versions of these teachers. And the reason why I call them teachers is that these patterns get established, and we will continue to date the same kind of person over and over and over again until we get our last teacher. And then once we get our teachings, things move and we're able to move forward. So that is what Karen is speaking of, as she had a fantastic teacher. Who's related to this? Raise your hand if you can relate to some really great teachers. Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. All right. So carry on.
Yeah. So that's So with that, and being a single parent, there was the finances were out. I was unhappy in my job, and one of the things that I recognized is that I am who I am wherever I am. So when Dr. Kelly came into my life and was offering coaching, and I'm like, yes, I absolutely need this, because the issues that I have are the same issues in my relationships, are the same issues at work. They're my same issues, wherever I bring myself. So it was just a fantastic opportunity. And I actually signed up for a year-long of individual coaching, which was an amazing experience. But as we got into that, my ex-husband passed away. So then the whole focus of our work together changed, because I had a significant amount of grief and trauma to work through with that, and it still brings me to tears. But yeah, so
let's all just take a deep breath into that. It's pretty emotional. She's really sharing from her heart. Can you ladies feel that? So let's just send her some love, right? Put your hands up. Let's send Karen some love. Yeah, she has had quite the journey.
Yeah. So what was kind of interesting about his passing, all of the funeral arrangements, everything fell on me, because our daughter was only 17 at the time and wasn't yet 18, and there was no other next of kin. So I was the one that took care of all of the funeral arrangements, and I was the one that put the memorial service together. And I remember standing at his memorial service and watching the video the slideshow I'd put together, and just realizing one thing was that I really truly loved this man. He was a sweet man. He had issues dealing with life that he couldn't manage, and he went his path. But he was someone that I truly loved deeply, and I realized that what I felt for the grand teacher that I was with was, what I felt for him was nothing compared to what I had felt for my husband. So there was that lesson. And then the next thing was that I felt free. I finally felt free, and I could breathe, and I could be me. And then that realization was that I couldn't be me when I was in relationship with this grand teacher of mine. Mm-hmm. So shortly after my ex-husband passed away, I broke up with this man I'd been dating for 3.5 years, and then stayed single for a period of time, and really just had worked on myself, worked with Dr. Kelly, worked with in some of her groups, found a couple of new jobs.
Yeah, I remember up-leveling and having conversations. She had a couple offers on the table. So we're talking about worth, and I mean, it's amazing how that self-worth will show up in relationship and work. And I remember what an exciting time that was. Yeah.
Yep. Negotiated a sign-on bonus and a higher salary at both of the new jobs that I had. It was just, so it was good changes. And so then gosh, it was about 1.5 years ago in November, I met up with a friend from high school, and he lives out of state, and we did some visits back and forth. and thought it was really positive and a good thing. You know, we have this shared history and how exciting. And then he ghosted me. He just disappeared. Yeah. and,
I remember
so
getting that text.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then learning through that, you know, doing some reading like on Psychology Today and what they have to say about people who ghost. And one of the things that I picked up is that someone who ghosts somebody is sending a very clear message that they aren't capable of having a mature, healthy relationship.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, in that case, he did me a favor. Fantastic. So then I took some quiet time. Dr. Kelly had mentioned something about feng shui to me, and that was something I had done years ago. So I pulled out all my references, and and I cleaned up my left corner in my house, and I actually set up a left corner in my desk at work, and it's a vase with some silk flowers in it, and then I also used it as a God box. And so every time I got a win or a positive thought or something I wanted, I dropped a little note in the vase, which was in my left corner, and then somewhere during that period of time, one of the women in our community had posted her experience about Bumble, and it was a really positive experience. And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, if she can have an experience like that, there's no reason I can't. So I remember this. It was a Tuesday night, and I went on. I set up my Bumble account, and just bare bones minimum. There's like a few questions you answer and they come up, and then I linked it to my Instagram account so that I didn't have to deal with picking pictures. They're just already there and they're current. And then so by Thursday, that was Tuesday night, and by Thursday I had text conversations going on with 7 men, and by Friday I had 4 first dates lined up. And so I went on one first date on that Saturday, and then the second first date was the man I'm now engaged to, and then the third first date happened a week later, and the fourth first date never happened because he ended up that man ended up getting a DUI and canceled the date because he had gotten a DUI, and then
it wasn't meant to be. Yeah.
It was not meant to be. So it's really
and just real fast.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't I challenge you to get on Bumble? I'm kind of remember. Was there a challenge in there?
Not to me personally, but you had put it out there to I think into the community. And
I challenge you ladies, because there was another gal had shared her story. You're right about Bumble, and I was like, ladies, come on! If this woman can do it, so can you. And it was all that timing and inspiration. It's also great how we all inspire one another, right? So
exactly. Yeah. And so so from the dates that I went on, I did actually get asked out on second dates, and it ended up the only second date I went on was the one with Craig. We went hiking. We met at Chautauqua and went up the Meadow Trail and the backside of the Flatirons, and got lost along the way, and ultimately decided, lost the trail completely and decided to just come back down. And there was a resting spot with these boulders that we stopped and were sitting on, and that's where we had our first kiss. Yeah.
Details.
It was wonderful. Took selfies. Then it was great. And then from there, the relationship just continued to grow. This was last year in May-ish, and so he and I both really enjoy sci-fi and fantasy movies. So we had both been watching the Game of Thrones series, and if anyone else of you had been watching that, was the finale was last year. So I had invited him over to watch some of those final series with me. And so the first time he came to my house, I had a couple other friends over, and he says to me, he says, I've been craving this.
Oh.
And I was like, yeah, me too.
Just watching a movie and having like normal, hanging out. Like, raise your hand if you'd love to have somebody kind of cuddling in with during COVID, especially. Yeah. It's like normalcy, right?
Just that normal, cooking dinner together, having food together, watching TV, just, that normal family sense, right? And so we moved on from there. The the yeah, the emotions actually went really fast, and we connected really well, really fast. And so, within the first 6 weeks or so, 4 to 6 weeks, he had brought up the question of, what is it that you're looking for? And you're out dating. What is it that you're hoping to find? And he says, and I'm like, I'm right now, I'm just looking for fun, but ultimately I want a long-term committed relationship. And he had asked me if I was open to be getting remarried. And I kind of stopped, and I said, well, I don't need to be remarried. I want a committed long-term relationship. But I had, through my experiences, I had gotten to the point that marriage to me was a piece of paper in a business relationship. And what I was looking for was the emotional connection and the long-term ride off into the sunset committed relationship,
Yeah.
which didn't have to mean marriage to me. So, so a few weeks go by, and he comes back, brings it up again, and he says, I've thought about your answer, and I really searched how I felt about it. And he says, it's important to me, and I want to be remarried. And would you at least be open to considering marriage? And I'm like, I'm willing to talk about it. I'm open to considering it. And then right about that time, I have a 13-year-old son. At the time he was only 12. So, and he's involved on YouTube, and he has a Discord account, and he's a gamer and plays with his friends, and he wants to be a YouTube star. So he made friends with somebody who he assumes is his own same age, who is a YouTube person with a large following, and they were talking over Discord, and my son was telling me how they had phone calls together, and it was somebody he met through YouTube, and I freaked out, and I took his phone away. And Ryan had a fit and went outside, and I let him know that I loved him, and that I want to help him become a YouTube star, but we have to do it in a way that's safe, because he's only 12, and it is to be safe. And I'm like, and we hugged and everything. I'm like, you ready to come inside now? And he said, no. I'm like, that's okay. You can stay outside as long as you need to. I'll call you when it's time for dinner. So it was dinner time, and we went to go get him, and he had disappeared. So, Craig was over, and he was calm and collected, and he's like, I don't know how to do this, because I haven't had this experience yet. He has two daughters who are 25 and 23. He's like, but this wasn't something that they went through. So, and so ultimately my daughter went driving to look for my son, and I went walking, and Craig stayed at my house in case he came home on his own. And this all went on, and it was just so wonderful to have that support. And there was no blame. There was no, Karen, you're a terrible mother. There was no anything, negative about the experience. He was just calm, and I'm here to support you, whatever you need. And
yeah, I remember you saying how that was such a big part in your relationship, like having someone like, when there's chaos, and he was like that grounding presence for you, and not trying to power over you, but like with you. Like I remember the story and how powerful that is.
And and it was truly, just truly amazing. So maybe a week or two after that experience, we were out for a walk, and we were talking again, and he brings up the topic again, and I said, I want you to realize, okay, your daughters at the time were 24 and 22, and my daughter's 20, and my son is only 12. I'm like, I have 10 years before I am where you are now, is what I told him. And I need to know that you're aware of that and comfortable. And he says, Karen, he's like, I know exactly what I'm getting into. And he says, and it's important to me that you know that I don't want to just move in with you. I want to marry you. And that was July of last year. So, so that's the relationship has actually progressed with that in mind all along. And
So
and then
do you want to pause here for a moment?
uh
And it's kind of like, so leading in how you met and we got kind of like a pivotal point of like what I'm hearing. There was something that anchored in you, like this guy has, in that moment, did you know this was a guy that you would definitely marry, or like where were you? Because I know that was a big turning
I
point.
yeah, no, it was, yeah, there was those little things like
Yeah.
that, like that point in May when he said, that first time he came to my house, and he said, Karen, you have no idea how much this means to me. He's like, I've been craving this. I've been the sense of thing.
Oh,
And so that was something that really anchored with me. And then we had been doing taking dance lessons, swing dance lessons. And one night he had just mentioned that he some of my stories and the struggles I've gone through. He's like, Karen, he's like, I want to help you. And he's like,
oh.
I don't know how, but I'm here for you, and I want to help you. And
Mm.
so there was that anchored for me. And then, like I said, it was like how he there was no overreaction to what went on with my son. It was just the fact that he was there and he was solid and he was there for me was huge. So I mean, there were just these little building blocks along the way. So at that point that he said that to me in July, I was like, yep, yes, I can marry you.
Ah, I love it.
And
I love
so
it.
yeah, and so then it was basically that was the beginning of the committed relationship part. But he also had a job that was sending him every month. He was on the road for 2 weeks at a time. He would go to another site and he'd do an audit there, and he'd help with their inventory accounts and all these kind of things. So what we started doing is that on the weekend in the middle, I would fly to the location he was at. So we had a wonderful weekend out in Seattle. We had another weekend out in Indianapolis. We spent a weekend together out at Glenwood Springs. So we had all these little mini trips and mini vacations along the way that just were just really special, fun times. And then we moved into the holidays, and then it was January. He asked me. He says, He's like, do you know what kind of ring you would like? And I was like, I hadn't really thought. I'm like, I have not given it one single thought. So not even one. So I'm like, let's go shopping. I'll pick 3, and then you can surprise me. so we kind of put that off till. So he's like, well, let's do this. He's like, so he ended up moving in with me in my house in February. He listed his own house for sale. And then once he closed on his house on March 2nd, that weekend is when we went shopping for rings, and ended up finding the one that I wanted. And he
The one with the one, huh?
The one that I wanted. Yeah. So exactly. And so, he bought the ring, and they sent it to get set, and we had a pickup date of March 27th. And COVID happened, and the store closed on March 22nd. So, so then, there was just this waiting period, and so I guess, he kept watch of when the store was reopening and had picked up the ring. And then one of the things that we've been doing with the COVID is family game night. So there've been, we've had Zoom in where his daughters Zoom, and my daughter and their friends, and so we'll have these big Zoom family game nights. And we've had other nights where everyone was at a house and it was just us and it was in person. And so it wasn't an out of the question, hey, let's have family game night. I'm like, yeah, sure. So then it happened to be May 23rd, which happened to be my brother's birthday. My brother and my sister and my mom and dad all live in California. And we had my brother and his wife Zoomed in, and my sister and her boyfriend Zoomed in, under the presumption that this is how we were celebrating my brother's birthday, was family game night.
COVID party, Zoom in family game night, right?
Right. So we were playing Sorry, and the way it was set up is that we had the board at our house, and the people that Zoomed in had little game pieces, and we would play for them. So we'd show them their card and we'd move their piece, and you know, so we had like all these people and 8 different, you know, people, you know, playing, and we get through the deck of cards and he's shuffling them, and his daughter was there, and so she took half the deck and was helping them shuffle, and they're passing cards back and forth, and we finally started playing again, and if he was one off, I'm like, yeah, no, Justin's starting. He thought it was someone else's turn, and so and this was important. In a minute I'll tell you why, but we start with the person who needed his turn, and it got to me. It was finally my turn, and I pick up the card, and it's a image of these 2 rings. One's a band and one's a diamond ring.
Ladies, would you like to maybe see a picture of it in just a minute?
Yeah, I'll run go get it. So, but,
I actually have it. I'm queued up.
Okay.
I'm ready, girl. I'll let you finish.
Sure. But I'm looking at this card, and all I could see is the rings on it, and I'm like, I don't remember this in a Sorry game. I'm like, they must have updated their game. I don't get it. But I thought wedding, and I showed to him. I'm like, oh, isn't this cute? We're getting married too. And he pulls out the box.
Is that what you said?
Yes.
Oh.
And he pulls out the box and opens it, and he says to me, he's like, would you do me the great honor of becoming my wife? He's gonna move to me. And I was got all jittery and excited and the whole thing. So yeah, it was just a wonderful, perfect experience. But you know, where this came up was that he had counted everyone who would be drawing a card, so that he could slip in this card at the appropriate spot. So and then he was one
really
off.
planned it.
Yeah, so then he had to flip another card without anyone seeing it, so that I would get the right card. And in the meantime, he had made the card. So Sorry comes with some blank cards, and he had made the design. He had taken it to Kinko's, had it printed on a label, put the label on the card. I mean, so he did the whole thing, set it all up, and yeah, it was just fantastic because all our kids were there, and
I'm gonna show a little
my family, my brother and sister. Yeah.
Here we go. Give me a second, ladies. I'm gonna share my screen, and this should work. Give me a second. Let's see here. See, ladies can see. Share screen. There we are. And you're also going to see Craig.
Yeah. Do
you ladies see that?
Yeah. So
isn't that so sweet?
So when I finally read it, it says, sorry, this card isn't going to help you win the game, but will you do me the great honor of becoming my wife?
Yeah. Yeah. As you can see, I've got to look to the other screen now. Yeah. And that's actually how I found out that she had that he had proposed, because the same day she put it up, I was like, oh my gosh! I was so excited. Just so excited for you. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the share. So, woohoo! Oh, let's give her happy glitter hands.
There's
the rock. Right? It's just amazing. It's so amazing. Kate says, so happy for you, Karen. I have goosebumps and hope. It's so cute. And Carrie says, I love this. Thank you, gorgeous.
Thank you.
So beautiful. So if you were here, you know, I would give you the rose, but instead we'll use a little different flower here. We will grant you a virtual gladiola.
Excellent.
Yeah, just so thrilled. Just so thrilled. And I know we'll have, I'm sure there's going to be women that have questions for you. So let's go ahead and mix it up a little bit before we go to Sheila. Raise your hand. Let's see. We've got Carrie. She did a thumbs up. Let's see. Does anyone have any questions? You can unmute yourself. We have such a small group. Yeah, let me go ahead. I'm going to unmute you, Carrie. Hello.
Am I unmuted?
You are unmuted.
Okay. Well, Karen, it's so nice to meet you and hear your story, and thank you so much for sharing with us. Yeah, it's very inspiring, and I'm just smiling hearing about it. So it sounds like you and your soon-to-be husband had a pretty good emotional and mental connection. Did you guys have a physical connection right away?
Yes. Yeah. And but that was one of the things too, is that we also took that slow. So there was that whole, it was like high school where we made out on the floor in the living room, you know.
Hot.
But, and then it would get, we're like, okay, you know, I can't take it too far because my kids are home. They might be in their rooms and not, you know, of course, but it's like, okay, well, okay, we want to take it further, but now it's time for you to go home. So we actually held off probably about 3-4 months.
Wow. Okay. Good to know.
Yeah. Yeah. I am an advocate of slow dating. And I think that's one of the positive things with COVID, you know, that people are slowing down and really getting to know each other. I mean, and each woman and man move at a different pace, you know, but I think it gives us the chance for a man to prove his worth to us, right? And allow for that courtship and really deepening of that emotional connection, so that sex isn't the leading thing. It can be sexy, it can be hot, right? But really, I think it's beautiful having, as a culture, people slow down again, because, you know, for more recent years, it's been like go fast. Like just every area of our lives, it's like, oh yeah, people having sex on the first date, and if that's your thing, that's great. I tend to attract women that, you know, wanting that long-term commitment, so they don't want to just jump in the sack. But a great question that you have is like, was that physical connection there right away? And I have coached women where the physical connection isn't there immediately, and yet it can grow and it can be really sexy, right? So I always advise a woman, like, if you're questioning that, I mean, there's one thing to be like turned off, right? That's like going in the negative physically, but like really, I have watched so many women in partnership where they get turned on by that emotional connection, and then they actually are physically incredibly attracted to that person. So I'm curious, in the group tonight, has anyone had that experience before where you weren't really? No,
I've tried. I haven't succeeded yet.
Okay.
I'm talking to somebody right now that, no, I mean, I'm physically, but we haven't, I don't know. Look at Sheila smiling. So yeah, it's on a very slow. Yeah, no, it's very slow. He finally did kiss me the other day. I'm like, oh, finally. He was like, well, I didn't know if you wanted that. And I'm like, well, I didn't know if you wanted it. So anyway, I mean, not an intimate kiss, just a peck, but still. So yeah, it's been very slow burn. But yeah, I mean, to me right now I guess at this stage of my life, it's like, I mean, I'm attracted and we can spend hours and hours together. So that, I think the friendship and the respect for each other and just being able to be with each other. Yeah, is more endearing or long term than that fast, let's have sex on the first date thing.
Totally. And for any of you ladies that, if you know Allison Armstrong, if you don't know her, write this name down, Allison Armstrong. She is an amazing facilitator for partnership. I really believe in a lot of what she says. She wrote a book called The Queen's Code. And I read the book years ago, and upon first read, I wasn't as into it. I don't think I quite got it. But over the years, I've listened to her more and more, and actually did a virtual book club where she was facilitating with us reading the chapters, and it was a game changer because I got her actually like going deeper into it. But one of the things she says is, as you know, there is a difference between like the hot, fast fire that burns out just as fast often, right? And so that when you're looking for a long-term partnership, that it tends to be something that, you know, you can have sparks fly, but it's not that intensity. And often when it's that intensity, what we find is it turns on the reptilian brain, like the old hind brain, which is all about let's have sex and make babies. Like that's, you know, really, you know, how we're wired as men and women, and coming into intimacy in that way. And so when you don't have that fast, like, you know, so hot and sexy, it really does allow us to connect to different emotional parts of our brain and really create deeper connections. And it's actually through the intimacy that everything really deepens. And it's that fire that burns long and, you know, and consistent, you know, the heat that is can be more consistent. So that's one of the things that I've learned from her. And I think it's true. I think it's true. I think that when we're younger, the hot and heavy and all of that, it's like our hormones are going and everything, and it's hot, right? And ladies, by all means, I want you to have hot sex. So let me be clear, you know, let's have the passion, right? But coming out of the gate for a first date, it might be a red flag. It might be. So something to consider, something to consider. All right, great question and engagement, Carrie. Anything else that you'd like to ask Carrie?
Me?
Yeah.
Me? Oh, well, because people call me Karen a lot.
Oh.
I don't know if people call you Carrie, but
I do. I
happens to
get,
me.
yep.
So at what point did you disclose to him your status? Like, tell us about that.
So our second date was hiking and out in the sun. And he shows up for our third date with a great big huge cold sore. So so it was pretty easy after that.
Yeah.
That was good. Wow. Wow.
Good. That was brave of him to show up too.
Yeah.
He may have canceled and then rescheduled because of it.
So did you bring it up or did he?
Well, I brought it up, and then so that was part of the next piece was that so it was okay. So this is something that we know. So what about the things we don't know? So so I actually asked for both of us to have current testing done and have the results back before we move things further physically. So so that was part of the moving things slow as well, as to get all of that done and the results back. And so so it was all part of it. So I think the conversation started up pretty early and then went through so I think we went on our first. Actually, we've had our first weekend away in June, and we made out, but we weren't fully intimate, and then until we went to the trip that we went on in July, which was Indianapolis.
But were you planning to talk? Like, what was your plan? Were you going to tell him like on the second date, or
no? And that's just So I didn't. No, I was. It was I was waiting until I knew that's where I wanted it to go. And
okay.
So but then the opportunity came up. So
thank you.
Yeah.
But he knew his diagnosis? Because some people don't. Just because they have cold sore.
That's true.
Right. So, and that was part of the conversation, is that, he had talked with his doctor about it, and that his doctor had told him that there are prescriptions that are available if it's a problem. And so it was definitely a talking point. But it opened the door. So that was a nice entryway.
Yeah. Beautiful. All right. I don't see any hands up, so if you have a question, just click the raise hand. I love that Kate said, bring the heat. Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
Actually, I kind of want to go back a little bit to Carrie's question about that. So part of that is part of my point in waiting with him to be physically intimate was kind of what Dr. Kelly was saying about the slow burn. And it was about, I wanted to make sure he was who I thought he was, and that he had earned me, if you will. He had shown me who he was, and that I could trust him, and he was who I needed him to be before I gave that part to him. And so that was part of my whole intention.
Yeah. I call it trustworthy.
Yeah.
Or talk worthy. Do you, because I mean, when we're dating, and if you are a woman that carries an STI, it's like, it's not something in my opinion, and I've worked with women for over a decade in this area, I don't advise a woman to share right on a first date. Right. And because it's like, it's the same kind of thing where I'm sure women have had those dates, with men where you feel like you're their psychiatrist and they're telling you their whole life. It's like TMI. Like, it's like, no, we're just like sipping coffee, you know, like, so there is this idea that I really train women, you know, with a diagnosis or with something that's on their heart that's just is heavy, something from about their body or about their past or anything. I mean, women universal, like we have stuff, right? So it might not be an STI. It could be, you know, any number of things, from breast cancer to maybe it's not health related. Maybe it's, I had one woman, bankruptcy was so embarrassing for her. Like, we all have stuff, right? And so my invitation is, you know, just like TMI on a first date, it's no different with an STI. And is he worthy of a talk? You know, because if he's worthy of a talk, then you're talking about getting more intimate with him and sharing what I think is a very intimate part of yourself, right? So thank you for kind of going back to that, because I think that's an important point, that we're interviewing them as much as we think, you know, they're interviewing us, so to speak, in partnership. So fantastic questions. All right. So at any point you can raise your hand like this, or you can raise it on the thing. So Karen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I'm just so thrilled for you. And yeah,
Woo!
so amazing.
They're a cute couple.
Yes, just adorable. Just adorable.
Yeah, but Karen, when are you getting married?
July 3rd.
Huh? See, you haven't said that. You're getting married before I am.
It's July? Wow.
Yeah,
That's-
yeah. Like
That's
3
like
weeks.
3 weeks away.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So for those of you that are local, we have a officiator who is an ordained minister. He's a counselor and he's worked with my family through the years. And so he's going to be our officiator. Then it'll be Craig and I, his 2 daughters, my son and daughter, and we're all going to go out to Chautauqua. And then there's the Meadow Trail just under the Flatirons. And so we'll have our vow exchange there. And then and I have a photographer coming to get tons of like the family photo shoot. And then we're just going to come back to the house and have a quiet little family celebration. So it's simple and sweet.
And then you'll have fireworks the next night to celebrate.
Exactly. Yes, every year we get fireworks.
Exactly. My daughter was
And
born.
he'll always remember.
I know. There you go. That's good. Maddie was born on the 5th of July, so her daddy told her at a really young age, enough when she could understand, like, see the fireworks, they're for you because tomorrow's your birthday. So anyway, kind of cool. So let's go ahead. We're going to go ahead and move over to Sheila, but at any point you can ask either gal any questions or ask me questions. But we're going to go ahead and go to Sheila. How are you, my dear?
Good.
Yeah? So ladies, if you can look behind her, can you see it says Sheila and Steve?
Steve's an artist. He paints. So for the wedding, each person is going to sign a leaf. I'm in my craft room right now, so I've got wedding stuff all over the place. That's been keeping me sane through COVID, stuck in the house.
Yeah.
Work from home in the living room, come in here and do crafting for a while. So yeah, it's been sitting there. So John and I were like, well, let's just leave it there.
I love it. It was perfect. I was like, oh yeah, this is perfect. The two of you, behind. So anyway, so Sheila and I have also worked together, and it's been a long time too. You and I have known each other, so it's been 4 years. Okay. And
a little over 4 years, I think.
Yeah, I can remember when I first started working with you, there was a lot going on in your life. You know, I remember you had some health challenges. You were, at that point in time, you weren't employed. Is that correct? Is that right? During that time?
Actually, when I first started the group, no.
No? Okay, so that happened at some point.
I was working part-time at the retail store, and then I got the gig where I'm at now.
Okay.
Started out as a contractor at first, but Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure it may have not been the first time that I met you, right? But once we started working together, you had a lot going on. You had like career stuff, you had financial stuff that you're stressed about. This is a woman, by the way, ladies, she has more than one degree. You have like, what are your degrees? Yeah.
Or
Okay. Incredibly smart woman, beautiful woman. She's got it going on. And when I met her, she was just in this very challenging position. I'm sure many women listening in, if you're not here right now and you're listening on the recording, you might be in a really tough place. And Sheila was in that really tough place when I first met her, thinking that, oh my gosh, love isn't for me. It's not for me. It's not going to happen. Right.
No.
And I think in some ways, I remember coaching you a little bit and actually inviting you to really come out. You know, I forget what I had asked you, but you and I both remember that moment. And it's
Brene
like,
Brown, vulnerability.
What's that?
Brene Brown, vulnerability. And one of the group meetings, you were like, I'm going to pick on you. And I was like, no, please don't.
Pick on you.
By the end of the night, you had me crying.
Right? It's like, it's how I show love when I see potential. And I know with some loving hands that it is possible that you can, you know, have a remembering of who you ladies are, because you're magnificent beings. You know, and there are men out there that are just dying to be with you, and you forget who you are. You forget how brilliant you are, especially when things are challenging. So
I didn't really realize vulnerability was a thing, and that conversation led to me reading just about every Brene Brown book she's got out, and doing some other self-help work outside of you. And I think at that time, we were meeting with the group monthly.
Mm-hmm.
So and I had just started Visa, because I started the group in June and I just started Visa in April. So it was a contracting gig, so I wasn't sure what was going to happen with it. But that a lot. I had been unemployed for a little over a year, bad medical problems to boot that year. One of the saving graces through all of that was, before my back went out, I had started volunteering at Habitat, which was another connection you and I made right away. And for 6 months, I couldn't do that while I was down and out, and I couldn't look for a job. I was trying to take care of me, and eventually it just started rebounding. I joined the group. I don't even know what made me finally join the group. Oh, I wanted to start dating again because I was working, but I didn't know how to deal with the other situation. So I found the support group and joined it. And through that, of course, was you. So it's just kind of spiraled from there. And dating for me, I've never been married, no kids. I just turned 50 in December with another Karen that's on here in Hawaii. And I'm in my Hawaii dress too. But it's been a long haul. The 40s were not nice and fun. And I started it out all gung-ho with that double master's degree, going, my life is going to be great. And it just, not so much. So, I'm 45 years old. I got a back problem. I've got an STI. I don't know what the hell to do. How am I going to get back out there? And I met the group, met you, and that started turning. Work started turning a little bit for the better. And little by little, I had my teachers along the way as well. But I've just never really had any luck with dating. Most of the guys, it was just too much fire too fast and didn't go anywhere, or I got ghosted so many times I lost track of counting them. But I don't know, I still had that desire that one day.
Do you think that some of the dating that wasn't going well was a reflection of where you were, because you were struggling? Because and so if you're listening, it's like we tend to mirror what's going on the inside. So if you're really, really, really struggling, energetically your vibration is going to be lower. So the type of man that you would attract to yourself are not your ideal partner, because you're not in your best self. Now, let me also say, you don't have to wait until like when you think, oh, I'm in my full potential. Like, who actually really ever thinks that they're totally there? Like, there's always a bigger mountain and always a bigger mountain. So if you're on the other end of the spectrum, you're like, I've got my degree, things are going well, I've got everything going for me, and you're still waiting for a better version of you, girl, you got to stop. You got to get out there. So it is that dance of like, do the inner work, but you could also do the inner work while you're doing the outer work. And it's like on that rise is often when women won't find their mate. So
yeah, and I don't think I knew how to do that until I met you, and the whole job thing with all of the education that I have. I would make comments, and then looking back in hindsight, shooting myself in the foot, I guess, because I would always say that once I found the perfect job, I'd find the perfect guy.
Does anyone relate to
Kind of
that?
how it happened.
Yeah, I can tell you as, you know, starting a medical practice. Like I literally, like, all through medical school, I mean, I dated someone and had actually a really bad experience. But in general, my focus was all about career. And we see this a lot in young professional women, is that we put the profession and we wait for the man and the family and the things that we really want. And then we find ourselves in our 30s or 40s or later going, uh-oh, like I never put any energy into that. And I was kind of waiting for me to have all these other things figured out. So yeah, common theme for bright, educated, you know, women.
Yeah, but you know, living out here by myself, I knew that I was my sole supporter, so I had to have that piece in place for myself, because I'm not one to ask anybody for help or anything. But
right? Does anyone hear themselves in that? I'm not one to ask for anyone's help.
Am I?
I could relate to that. No, not at all. Not at all.
Not at all. I got to do it myself. I'm still
learning. I'm still learning.
I got it. Yeah. But yeah, in those early years, you know, I started meeting a lot of people through the group, both Karens and a few other people popped along. Yeah, it was just kind of, the job was kind of going good. At the 6-month mark, I'd get renewed for a contract, and then I'd get renewed again. And my boss had a lot of faith in me and was striving to fight for me. And it was kind of, I don't know, things were starting to turn, but I wasn't really sure how to get them turning more in that direction. And I think what started it is when I met Karen B, and her and I took your self-love course together. And we went through the Marrying Yourself.
Yes.
And I did that. And I came home. I was in Florida when that happened on the beach. And, you know, I got my ring at the airport on the way out, because all these women in the class were like, look at my ring, look at my ring. I'm like, oh, I should probably just do this.
So Sheila, for the women that are listening and right now they have no idea what you're talking about, like marrying yourself, can you tell them a little bit of what that means? Like this crazy thing that Dr. Kay does?
Yeah, not waiting for that perfect guy to come along. Give yourself the things that you're needing for you without that person being present. And I did that. And I still wear the ring every day, just moved hands.
And I just wanted to, that was a game changer for me. The sitting down and figuring out what it was that I was looking for from this long-term committed relationship. What was it that I wanted? I actually wrote down vows on my bathroom mirror with a dry erase pen, and it was, you know, I want, you know, I will, and what I wrote is, you know, I will love you now and forever, unconditionally. I have your back. You can trust me. So it was like, it was all these things, and I would actually look at myself in the mirror, say the vows to myself, heard someone, and my brain went, oh, someone's saying that to me, someone's promising me that. So it was like, I didn't have to look for that in somebody else. I didn't have to be completed by somebody else, because I already had it, because I'd already promised it to myself. So that was a huge game changer for me.
Huge game changer. Yeah, most women that I've had marry themselves really notice a big difference, you know, because the concept, and it actually came from, it's not something that I read in a book or anything like that. I actually did that for myself at a time in my life where I was like, okay, if I just keep on waiting for him to show up, like, when is my life really going to start? Right? Like, I need to show a deeper love of myself. And at that period of time, I was exercising, but not like I do now. Like, there are certain things that I do now. Every single morning I meditate. Like, there's some self-love that you know, it's where it's a cornerstone. If you want somebody to treat you like a queen, you got to treat yourself like a queen. So, you know, taking time to, I mean, we have a whole queen ceremony and the courses that I provide for women. Like we have a whole thing around it. But if you're just listening and you want to even just give it a go, you know, it's a commitment to yourself, to love yourself unconditionally, whether or not the man is there, and watch him show up when you show that level of love to yourself. So it's big. It's really big. So back to you, Sheila. Oh, Karen, did you have something? Yeah. Okay. Back to you, Sheila. Carrie said, I just want to fill in here. She said, I married myself last November and my wedding is in November 2021.
Yeah, I mean, I did this like little ceremony for myself in November, and I think it really helps. You know, I want the dress and the party.
Totally.
And I was like, why can't I have that on my own?
Yes.
So I'm gonna get a horse. I'm gonna get a horse, and I'm gonna have a ceremony down by the river, and I'm gonna invite my friends, and it's gonna be awesome. And I don't care if people think I'm crazy, because I want the party in the dress.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Carrie, where do you live?
I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Hey, road trip. We can come down.
Road trip, yeah.
Yeah.
We're not
You
that
guys are
far
more
from
than
us.
welcome.
What's that, 6 hours from Denver?
You're all invited. Every single one of you seems like a wonderful person, and I would be honored if you were at my wedding.
Awesome.
Okay,
Awesome.
sorry to interrupt, Sheila.
No,
okay, can you coordinate it with the balloon festival?
Yes.
No,
Yes.
I get my own party.
Exactly. Exactly. Fantastic. All right. So
Yeah.
you married yourself.
Back up about 6 months before that. No, not even 6 months, but October previous to, because I started your class in February. I remember that. So the October before, I had actually gotten in full time with my job, or permanently.
Right.
So for the first time, I had the job, I had the title, I had the money, I had the insurance, all the things I had been needing for myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, because I had taken a trip back home and went to see my family, and I hadn't been home in 5 years, and went to
Wow,
see
that's
my
a long time.
family and married myself as I was leaving Florida, and came back. And I think not too long after that, maybe toward the end of the class, you actually had an event at your house in Boulder.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of us went up to that, and it was a full moon that weekend. I remember that. And I have tried everything in the dating world. You want to talk about the magic potions, the love corners, the feng shui. I'm so into all that, but nothing seemed to be working. But I was trying to recharge everything. So after going to your event at your house, I came home. It was a full moon, and I had all these plans. And I must have done 2, maybe 3 different love spells. A love bubble bath kind of spell thing. And I'm like, okay, something's got to freaking work this time.
Yeah.
And that was probably end of February, beginning of March. And maybe later, maybe it was April, because I think our class went from February to April. So it was in April when that happened.
Because it was
Yeah, I haven't
around
thought about the
Valentine's Day.
timeline in a
Yeah.
while. And I came home and I did all of that and just had my evening to myself. And one of my boss at work was in the middle of a divorce but dating, and she kept talking about, oh yeah, and I've been on this website Zoosk, and I'm going out with this guy, and I'm going out with that guy. And I'm like, you just got out of a relationship. How are you doing this? So Zoosk is not one that I had really tried. So I'm like, let me just go out there.
Yeah.
And I had been on it for 6 months and nothing was happening. And I had it on my personal calendar wrong. So I thought it was going to renew a month. It caught me by surprise.
Yeah.
I knew in a couple weeks, and I'm like, if this love spell doesn't work, and when Zoosk ends, that's it, I'm done. And
love spell. I like the names of that.
yeah, well, Zoosk actually wound up renewing me. I had the date wrong. I thought I was going to be on there for like another 2 weeks, and it re-upped me. And I thought, I really want to pay for this for another 6 months, but you know, I don't want to fight to not pay for it, so I'll just roll with it. Apparently the universe wants me back out here.
Yeah, I
And
have plans for you.
Yep. Yeah, because it was May 20th, so it was April. So it was May 20th. All of a sudden, as online dating does, nothing or a few. I would always seem to get trapped in the few. So May 20th, this guy hits me up from Zoosk, and he's all, hey. I'm like, hey. And I had been, at that point, it was, prove to me you want to talk to me. I don't want to guide the conversation and be like, oh, what are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. I wanted somebody who could communicate.
Totally.
So this guy, Steve, started talking, and I'm like, okay. And then, you know, he'd be like, okay, I'm going to bed. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'm like, okay, whatever. I started talking to.
A little bit of non-attachment. Ladies,
Yeah.
ladies, let me give a little hint here. The queen leans back.
Take
Write that one down.
control.
It's so true. We don't want to be like, it's a turn off. Lean back.
But at the same time, I had a guy at work that I didn't know how to crush on me approached me. And I wasn't about to disclose to him because it's a workplace. I've done the workplace before. No. But he kept coming at me hard.
Oh,
and there was another guy online. So I had 3 all lined up and trying to push one away. The other one I was drawn into because we had that instant kind of physical connection kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then the other one who was just consistently communicating.
Is that Steve? Is he Steve the consistent one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I had a party at my house for another girlfriend who was about to go into the hospital with her breast cancer battle. And I was talking to the one I really liked and Steve both in the same day. I was juggling conversations and hosting a party at my house. And Steve, a couple days prior to this, he had said something about, well, I've got to work overtime this weekend, so, you know, maybe we'll get around to eventually meeting. And it'd been 2 weeks. He had talked every single day consistently, and I was like, another week? He was like, well, you're busy with your girlfriends tomorrow. And I'm like,
Yeah.
That's Saturday. Oh, well, what are you doing Sunday? So he was like,
So he's consistent and persistent. I like it. I like it.
a little bit. And I had to nudge just a little bit with him.
Yeah.
But, you know, he started setting up the date for Sunday, and we had it set up as a brunch. So I knew that date was going on. And I was talking to my girlfriends about it. And my one girlfriend that was going into the hospital is a Reiki master.
Okay.
And she loves pulling oracle cards out. And that day she was over here. She's like, you want me to do a reading? I'm like, yeah, sure. So she pulls this card on me. And the caption of the card says, ask your friends for help.
Oh.
The picture on the card was of a redheaded bride with
Oh my
all
gosh.
of her tribe around her.
I remember you saying that.
I didn't even look at what the card was saying because one of my girlfriends came over and she goes, there's a redheaded bride on this card. And I'm like,
Wow.
there is. She's like, well, maybe your date tomorrow. I'm like, tomorrow? I booked a date for tonight too when you guys leave.
Wow.
So when they left, I went out that night to meet another guy that was fast fizzled, went nowhere, got ghosted. And then I went and met Steve on Sunday,
Wow.
lunch, and right around the corner from my house. And, you know, I walked into the restaurant and I don't even know what made him do it. He just reached out and grabbed my hand.
Oh.
And I don't know why. I put my hand in his and it was just like, huh, this is kind of nice.
Yeah.
So we had lunch and we talked, and the restaurant was a little loud where we were at, and it was right on the Platte River. So I'm like, okay, well, lunch went well. Let's go for a walk. So we walked down the street, probably less than a mile, down to Hudson Gardens, and walked into the back gate. And there's a bench in the back by this lily pond area that's really pretty. And sat there on the bench talking for 4.5 hours.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, I was just comfortable. And at one point, because my back was bothering me, I kind of turned and leaned into him like this.
Oh.
And some stranger from across the pond came up and she goes, wait, don't you two look comfortable? And I'm like, shit, first date, too comfortable, set up.
Wow.
I'm like, what am I doing? And then I'm thinking, is this guy even going to kiss me at all? So
You're like,
finally,
come on.
I know. So finally, just before we went to leave, he leaned in, gave me a little bit of a kiss. And, you know, it was nice, but it wasn't super fireworks or anything.
Yeah.
So we walked back up to where our cars were, hugs, another little kiss. He left. And I thought, I don't know. I was still kind of wanting to get together with the other guy, I think, because, you know, that energy, to me, it was like, ooh, the attraction's with this guy, but I don't know about this guy.
Right.
And then the other guy ghosted me the next day. Steve kept talking. And I woke up Monday morning, and I'm a cat person too. So I have 2 cats in the house. They're my kids. And my boy cat was sick, not right. Instincts kind of started kicking in, called in from work, stayed home, got an appointment to the vet, and I'm rushing at him. Steve's getting a hold of me from work. Last night was really nice. I'm glad I met you, blah, blah, blah. How's your day going? And I'm like, I'm at the vet with a sick kitty, not so well. Yeah. And I had to give him some medicine. He was a little bit of a fighter. So another girlfriend of mine was over. She helped me give him the medicine. Then the vet called with more news. I had to bring him back the next day for other x-rays and stuff, but he needed another round of medicine. I needed the medicine inning again. And I was just talking to Steve. Steve called, and no, I don't remember if it was phone call or text now, but we were talking, and he was like, do you want me to come over? I'm like, no makeup, cat throw up from one end of the house to the other. I'm worried about my baby. I just met you yesterday. So my instinct was to say no, but I needed help. And the card from Saturday, ask your friends for help. And I thought, okay, let me try something different here. Like, okay, you can come over if you want. But he's like, not a problem. I'll come help you with your cat, and then I'll come back home. And I'm like, okay, if you can stick to that. So he came over, helped me out with the cat. And, you know, I was just walking him around, showing him the condos. And I have literally taken guys upstairs to my office before. And when they've seen the degrees, they've left and never talked to me again. Mm-hmm. And we just kind of stood at the degrees, and I was like, does that bother you? Not at all. I'm like, good. Okay. Yeah. So we came back downstairs, and I was just showing him around. And
can I pause for just a moment? Because I want to interject something. I think it's really important for women who are listening. I have had so many women tell me that the reason why they don't think that their love life is working for them because they intimidate men with their degrees. And what the research actually shows is that men, of the things that they really like about women, they like all these researchers or whatever, they actually like educated women. So it does come to us as a surprise because I hear this all the time. Raise your hand if you've ever thought that. Like, well, maybe it's my education or I've done well in life. I used to think that. But now that I like research like dating and the whole thing, I just wanted to share that with the group because that's what the research shows. Does that surprise you, Sheila?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay.
But, you know,
that's amazing. You were like, hey, does this bother you? I love that.
Yeah. I needed to know.
Yeah.
Because totally. I've had that issue before, and we hadn't really discussed my degrees or anything like that. So as I'm showing him around the rest of the house, he just kind of pins me up against the wall and gives me a real kiss. And I remember coming out of that kiss thinking, this is not the same guy that kissed me yesterday. So the first kiss sometimes can be not so great, and the second kiss can be like
the nice boy kiss, right? And then you got the
he was relaxed. He wasn't as nervous. So yeah, so it was kind of like, okay. So we just kind of sat on the couch and started talking, and the evening got away from us, and he was like, well, I should probably go home and go get some rest. And I don't know what it was we were talking about, but we kept talking and kissing. And a few minutes later, he had been here for probably about 3 or 4 hours by this point. The kissing got a little hot and heavy, and I'm thinking in my head, stop now, stop now, stop now. You got to talk to him. You got to talk to him. I didn't want to do it then. There was too much going on. So at the same time that my brain was saying, stop, let's slow this train down a little bit, he kind of pushed me away and said, before things get too heated, I've been tested. I'm negative. How are you? And he could just see my face change.
Wow.
I didn't have to worry about having that conversation anymore. And it was just like,
So
okay. So we sat, we had a nice long conversation. The kissing subsided for a while. And I was like, yeah, we really need to slow down. So I also told him that, I've got a copy of my recent tests, but he hadn't been tested in a while. So he had agreed to go and get tested. I sent him home with a couple books on some information, and we didn't talk for a week. And a week later, when we got back together.
Were you nervous during that week that you hadn't heard from him?
He was still talking.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
I mean, I would get texts from him and be like, I'm on chapter 14. I'm on chapter 26. I'm like, my goodness, you're a fast reader. He's like, yeah, some interesting information in here. So he came back over that weekend, and I took him to Habitat for the first time because, he likes to do stuff like that. And I have taken other guys from the group out to Habitat with me before. And there's an older lady that I've been working with, bless her heart. She's 70 something and still volunteering and building houses at Habitat. And Jan has seen me bring other men to Habitat. But as soon as she saw me with Steve, she looked at me and she goes, are you with this one? I'm like, I don't know. I just met him less than a week ago. She's like, yeah, I think you're with him.
So when did you know? When was the point? Do you remember the point where you're like, wow?
About a month in, we went to Colorado Springs. His sister lives in town too, so his sister and brother-in-law came out to meet me because he was staying with them for a while, and they wanted to meet me. So they drove up to Colorado Springs, and I drove them up to the top of Pikes Peak, and the four of us were all together. But the night before, when we first got up there, we went up to Cave of the Winds. Neither one of us had been there. And while walking around Cave of the Winds, he leaned in for a kiss, and he was like, I think I'm starting to fall. And I'm like, wait, stop.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I've been burned too many times.
Yeah.
I don't want to move quite this fast.
Exactly.
You need to slow down and let me catch up.
Exactly.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
So fast forward to the proposal.
Well, we kind of moved in together first.
Okay. Yeah. That's a big deal.
Yeah. So about 5-6 months in, he went back to his sister's to pick up some things and to leave some rent behind. And when he came back a few days later, she left him a note and says, as if you don't live here anymore, gave him his money back.
Oh, wow.
And I was working from home, and he came over and was hanging out with me. And we hadn't really talked about it. And he was like, well, maybe I just should move in here with you. And I'm like, I'm in the middle of a report. I got a meeting next after this. Can we talk later?
Yeah.
So after work, we went up to Clement Park, walked around the lake, went and had dinner, came back, and we just sat up and talked all night about what we both wanted.
Wow.
And we moved in.
And how far into it was it? You said 5 months?
6 months, yeah.
Yeah. Ladies, it can happen really fast.
6 months.
Yeah, because I met Richard in March. I moved in June.
Mm-hmm.
He proposed September. We were married the following June. And
yeah, I met him
11 years.
I met him in June. He moved in January.
Yeah.
And he proposed last July. So in a couple weeks, it'll be a year since the proposal already. We
awesome.
just had our 2-year anniversary mark last week. But same thing. We were just kind of talking one night, and he was like, I don't even really know where to go buy rings at or anything. He's from the Western Slopes, so it's a much smaller town than down here. So, I was like, not a problem. Let's go shopping.
I can do that.
I took him to like 5 different stores. I picked out 3 rings. There was one that I really, really, really wanted. And then one that we both kind of liked, but then there was one that we both really liked, which actually wound up being like the second one I tried on at the first store. And I told him I picked my 3, and I was like, I've picked my 3, you pick the one. You figure everything else out on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah, not exactly. He finally came around and he was like, I think I know which ring I'm going to get you. He cannot keep a secret. He cannot keep anything inside. He's like a little kid with that. And so we started talking about it, and he was like, but I want you to come with me so we can do the ring sizing and everything. So this is okay. So we went back to the mall and looked at the ring that I have on now, and it's a 2-piece. It's a 2-piece. It has another piece to it. And
I'm going to show a picture real fast of Steve too as you're talking. I'm going to show you so they can see this.
So I got the ring, and I knew he wanted to propose, but his uncle had passed away and they were having a funeral back home, and I hadn't met his family yet. So I said, just wait. Let me meet your family. Let's go through the funeral. Don't do this beforehand. So he was like, okay. Literally 2 days after we left his family, we drove down into Ouray, and he had 3 different plans in his head to engage to me on. The first one was one of his favorite spots in the Black Canyon Forest. He drove right past the lookout point. Then we got to Ouray, checked into the hotel, and the next day we went up to Boxwood Canyon, and he knows I like waterfalls. So he was going to take me all the way up to the top and propose to me up there with the waterfall underneath us. I wasn't feeling good. I had a headache. I really didn't feel like climbing all of the stairs that you would have to go up there. So I kind of thwarted plan number 2. And
like, how am I going to do this?
Yeah, so we were getting ready to leave Ouray, and the next thing we were going to do before we left, he wanted to take me up to a driving trail called Yankee Boy Basin. And I'm like, okay. So we took the truck and went up Yankee Boy Basin, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe I had it wrong. Maybe he's not going to propose this weekend. Nothing just didn't, something seemed off since we had left his family to begin with.
Yeah.
So we get up to Yankee Boy Basin, and it is like, the Jeeps and the trucks do really well because it's rocky.
Right.
And we get all the way to the top. We couldn't get all the way up to the top because there was still snow in July. There was still so much snow up there. We couldn't get around the last bend to the basin part of it. So he was like, well, let's just stop here, go check out the snow. And I'm like, okay. So we stopped. We realized the snow is impassable. Nobody's really, even the Jeeps, they were all turning around and going away. He's like, yeah, we're not going to get all the way to the top. And I was like, okay. So, we started walking back to the truck, and there was this dead tree log just hanging out there, and the view of it was really pretty. And he was like, well, let's just sit down for a second. And I'm like, okay. I didn't even realize he had the ring box with him.
Oh, wow.
And I couldn't tell it was even in his pocket. And I was looking out for him because I had told another girlfriend, I'm like, I think I'm going to come back engaged. She's like, yeah, I do too. But we sat down on the log, and I was taking selfies and pictures like I always do. And all of a sudden, he just crawled off the log, hopped down in front of me on one knee, and pulled the ring out. And I was like, you did bring the ring. So he barely got through proposing. I'm a crier. He's a crier too.
Oh.
And then we just kind of sat there on the log taking more pictures, and took some more pictures. And, the whole entire drive home, I was like, that really happened.
And then tell them when you looked at when you looked at the pictures, what you saw on the mountain? I love that part.
It was right after he proposed. We were still sitting on the log, and I was just kind of soaking in what had just happened. And I looked up, and the mountain view that was in front of us was twofold, and the mountain to the right, it looks like on the very tip of it that there was a patch of snow that looked like a heart. And I was like, oh my God, is that a heart on the mountain? He goes, I don't know, I can't see it. So I took a picture, and we took my phone and we blew it up, and we were just both sitting at the phone like, there's a heart on the mountain.
Ladies, she showed it to me. Literally, it's this perfect heart right above them, up high in the mountain, right beneath where he proposed. It's magical.
And another painting that he's done for the wedding is a long one of the mountain with the.
Oh, wow.
That's in the other room. So he's painted that for us too. But then, of course, you know, we had to drive all the way from Uray back up to Denver that night. So, and I realized too, it was a full moon.
Yeah.
I did the love spell on a full moon.
There you go.
And I got engaged on a full moon.
Yeah. Yay.
Yeah.
Yay. Let's give her some love. I love your story. I'll give you a virtual gladiola too. Here you go.
Aww.
Here you go, my love. It happened for you.
It did.
So excited.
It did.
And then Sheila ended up surprising me.
Yeah. Well.
Right?
Yeah. But there's a backstory. Okay. The other Karen on the call had gone through a breakup. We were at the Seal concert getting ready to go into, what happened at the Seal concert, young lady? Jonna was with us. We were all getting ready to go into the Seal concert, and Jonna had to run back to the car for something. And Karen and I started talking, and she was like, have you figured out who's going to officiate your wedding yet? I'm like, I haven't even started thinking about plans yet. So she was like, well, I was going to ask Dr. Kelly. And I went, oh, can I take that? So, and then, you know, we just started talking about some other things, and started a story for her that she'll tell one day. But yeah, so it just kind of went from there, and I thought about it and talked to Steve about it, and he was like, I'm okay with this. So I had gotten cards for all of my bridesmaids and everything. So I got one for you to ask you to officiate the wedding, and I took Steve up to Boulder to meet you. And you were so excited when you saw the flowers and the cards. You were opening it before I realized you were opening it. And then you just started crying.
Oh, I totally cried. I've never done anything like that. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, and then I told her, I was like, well, it wasn't really something I thought of at first. It was actually Karen's idea, but that didn't fall through for her. But I'll be your practice run.
There you go.
For when Karen actually does get married, so you can officiate both of our weddings. So
exactly. And Carrie had something to say here. She says, thank you, Sheila. I'm so happy to hear your story. Thank you. I love your ring and heart on the mountain. I love Seal. I have to leave the meeting, need to walk my dog in, finish some homework, grad school. Hope to see you via Zoom in the future again. Many thanks. Thank you, Carrie.
Yep.
Fantastic. Yep.
So
it's amazing. It's amazing. Yep. Love happens. Love happens. It really does. And I tell women, it's like, you know, think of most of the women that I work with are heterosexual, so I refer to men, but men or women, like think of all the people on the planet, and how many do you need? One. You only need one. And so it really is just a matter of time, you know, to stay the course. So many times when I start working with women, they're so hopeless. And I mean, these are strong, amazing women, and they're like, they're ready to just give up, you know? And it's amazing, you know, when they're, sometimes it's just like the littlest thing. And then there's the timing, right? It's like the surrender to it's time when it's time, and when it's time when it's time. So it's like, if you've been putting yourself out there, and you're going, it's not happening, then I invite you to go in the opposite direction and just sit back a little bit. As I said, the queen leans back, right? So you can't make this happen, right? And you can't just sit on the cushion the whole time either. It is a dance with the universe. So do the things that you love. I mean, I think these women both showed us, it's like, you know, they were willing to do that internal journey of the self-love, and then it was time when it was time. I mean, Sheila, you're sharing, it's like you thought you were off Zeus, and like magically you weren't, you know. Yeah. And it's just amazing when you know, 2020, here we are in 2020, and they say 2020 is perfect vision. Like you will look back, like once you find your man, you'll look back and you'll see the little threads of things that fit together, and you're like, oh my gosh, wow, I never thought of that. But you can't see it in the moment. Like it has to thread, you know, to make the beautiful tapestry. So I really want anyone who's listening now or listening to the recording to know you're divine, you're perfect, you are the love that you've been looking for, and he's out there or she's out there, right? You only need one. And so if you're listening to Sheila and you're listening to Karen and you're like, oh my gosh, I want that, then God has placed that on your heart, and he or she is out there for you, which is why I wanted you ladies to share your stories, because it's so inspiring and so beautiful. So with that, does anyone have any questions for Sheila? I know we've definitely gone longer than I thought, but we've been having fun, so it's all good. But you can just unmute yourself so that I don't, because I'm not seeing any raised hands. Does anyone have any questions for me or for Karen or for Sheila?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Congratulations, both Karen and Sheila. I'm so happy for you. I was wondering, what book did you give Steve when you gave him the book to read?
There were two. One was Dr. Kelly's book, and the other one was, oh God, she was a nurse that had been dealing with STIs, so she was looking at it from a totally different.
It's the good news about the bad news. Terry Warren's book. Fantastic book.
Yeah.
Yep.
He really resonated with that book.
Yeah.
He had some medical training, so his mind really resonated with seeing it in that format.
Sorry, what did you say the title of it is?
The good news about the bad news. Wait a second, my husband's trying to get my attention. Do you want to say hi? Is that what you're trying to do?
Yep.
Oh, come. You want to say, so come here, sweetie. We're just wrapping up. Richard wants to say hi to all you. So you see, he's not like just a fag.
No, she said she wanted me.
I thought I did, but we're all good. You're all Paul here. There you go.
Hello, everybody.
So lucky to have
Dr. Kelly, was
coming up here?
Was yours slow burning or was it immediate sparks?
Oh, spark right away, but you know.
Physical sparks or just?
Oh, she made me work for it. Believe me.
They're talking about, like, you know, when you meet somebody and it's just like, it can be like so intense. The passion was so intense.
Yes.
I don't think it was like that. It was, I mean.
I knew right away she was different.
Or you hit it. You hit it, Richard.
No, seriously, I knew right away she was different. I was tired of dating. I was burnt out on dating. I was like, blah. Are there any normal women in Boulder is pretty much where I was. And we had a lovely dinner and a concert. And I said, when can I see you again? And,
it was hot.
And she,
but before that, isn't that when the drunk came out?
Well, yeah, I'm right. I'm right. Okay, it's a Sunday night in Boulder. If anyone remembers Sunflower Restaurant, it's not a bar, it's a restaurant. It's Sunday night. I'm going in for the kiss, and this drunk comes out of Sunflower and goes, go ahead and kiss her. I was like, oh man. So I got the cheek.
He totally threw his mojo off. Like he didn't know what to do. Yeah.
So then I asked her, I said, when can I see you again? She played hard to get. I don't date during the week, all this stuff. And I called her up a couple days later and said, girls got to eat. So I took her out to a nice dinner. And she had said, I just got done working out. Give me a half an hour. So I expected wet hair, the whole 9 yards. She opened the door. I was like, hello. And we went out to a lovely dinner. And I was pretty sure right away, but I played it cool. And then she made me work for it. And it was about 6 weeks or so. We took a 3-day road trip down to Santa Fe. Best date ever.
Yeah, that was.
So any questions? Anything, anyone?
See what we got here on time.
Hi, Sheila. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
Not bad.
So yeah, if anyone has a question from a hubby, you can just unmute yourself and start talking.
Or all about. Bye, ladies.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
That's my sweetie. All right.
Yeah.
So any other, hey, Charity! Gorgeous!
I know, look at that hair.
Normally it's thrown back. That's why you don't see it.
I was gonna say, I've never seen all that hair.
Thank you. Congratulations, ladies. I was just listening and excited about the whole thing, waiting for my turn to show up.
Yes.
It's coming.
Totally coming. We got an order into the universe.
All right, thank you.
Totally.
Just don't expect it to look like you think it's gonna look like, because
It's
it's always
true.
different.
It is true. I always say the universe, you make your plans and then God laughs, because literally I had my list. And he actually truly did hit everything on the list. And we later found his list, like as I was getting ready for a 3-day event that I did, we found his list and we're like, oh my gosh, I wish I could find mine. But here's the joke. I didn't put anything on the list about age. He's 15 years older than me, and I almost didn't go on the first date. And
Wow.
we met from a blind date. A dear friend of ours got us to go on a blind date. So you never know where it's going to come.
You don't. And some things about it may not look like everything that you've pictured.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, be open.
yeah.
Be open, but don't settle.
Yes.
Exactly.
Cool.
All right. Any other sharing or questions? Charity, do you have anything else you want to share or ask?
I got mom sitting here chatting in my ear. No, I mean, I was just excited listening to all the accounts that the ladies had on meeting their kings, and I don't get a chance to go out much, so it's harder for me to get out there because I'm taking care of mom 24/7, and then I work from home. So it was funny because I was talking about that yesterday with my daughter, and I was like, grandma has these episodes where she's yelling and she's shouting and all this kind of stuff. I said, how could I possibly, if I had the opportunity to meet someone and they happen to come to the house and expose them to that, and even no matter how much you pre-warn somebody, they don't know until they see it. And I think women are different. We kind of we nurture it, so we're like, oh my goodness. But men are kind of different too, where they're kind of like, oh my gosh, so it's that medium of finding someone that something like this doesn't scare them away.
Right.
And
They
so
have to
that
fit your life.
Yeah, and so that's the hard part of even thinking about online dating. I'm like, don't have the time, and I know we have the time.
We're gonna make the time.
Yeah, make the time. And when you have a 96-year-old with dementia and stuff like that, it's just kind of like puts you in a different frame of mind. Like,
I totally get it.
Yeah, I was really ready to start dating when my daughters they both hit 21. I said, okay, great, because now I'm still a young mom. We can all go out. And then mom showed up, and it was just like, oh, I've retired now. I'm 81, and I'm going to come live with you. And you're just like, you didn't ask me. You're already here.
Yeah. No, it's totally, I get it, Charity. I can only imagine how precious that time is for you. And you are a caretaker, and you do have a full-time job, and you're a mama. And so what I would say is be open to the man that is ready for all of that. Because if you think there's two, I thought very interesting similarities between these two women's stories tonight. And it was around Karen when she said, wow, everything, all of a sudden, her son, they're looking for a son. And here Craig just stood in his masculinity and was just such a grounding force for her and such a place of peace, and so he was there for her. And then Sheila sharing how she needed help with her cat. And she got that card saying, ask for help. So I challenge that part of you that's like, oh, no one would want to, or no one would understand this. You'd be amazed. The right man for you that will just be, they're just going to fall naturally into that. Ladies, do you agree with me?
Very naturally.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So yes, like I wrote earlier, I didn't start my profile yet. And I don't have a lot of pictures. I just have the one picture I took on Valentine's Day. So I'll send you that one. But yeah, I'll need help putting together a profile.
We're gonna help you. We're gonna help you. If you're listening and you don't know what Charity's talking about, Charity's in our Lifelong Love Academy. We've got some other women in there. Karen's in the academy too. And it's a year-long program. We start our Accepting Women. We're in month 4, which is all about the dating profile. We've done some of the core work to get these ladies ready. But yeah, it's go time. Getting these ladies up and getting their profiles. We're looking at their pictures. We're giving them feedback. We're giving them feedback on what to say. Richard's going to come in on that call. And so that'll be a treat next
boy.
Tuesday. So if you're listening, you're like, that marriage thing, that sounds cool. We'll just like feed you on into this. If it's something that interests you, just reach out to me, and we'll chat to see if it could be a fit for you. But it's it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time, especially if you're a woman listening and you're thinking, wow, I don't know if it can happen for me. It can, and with some love and support and some coaching, miracles happen, ladies. Miracles happen. Especially when you have sisters that are like, oh yeah, you're going to find love when I find love. We're going to do it together, right? It's so important. Exactly. Yay. Yay.
Seems like all the single men are in Boulder, so I might need to relocate out of Vegas for a hot minute.
Colorado is great.
Mine's not in Boulder. It was from the other side of the mountain.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, ladies, what fun. Did you learn some things tonight? Or it wasn't as much learning as sharing. Everyone loves a good story, right?
Yeah, very
it's
encouraging.
like you can see yourself in the stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can remember coming on calls like this and listening to other women that you would have speak and think, that's never going to be me.
Yeah.
And then another friend of mine got a hold of me, and she had seen your Facebook Live, and she knew I was going to be here tonight. And I was like, how did you know? She was like, Dr. Kelly's live. And I'm like, so I was listening to it, and I went to bed, and you were talking about me and some of the things I've been through. And I just kind of looked at Steve and said, when did I get on the other side of all of this?
Right.
He goes, 2 years ago. And it doesn't seem like 2 years, but at the same time, it seems like 5 years already.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I used to think that all the time. Why am I doing all of this work? Ain't nothing gonna happen.
Exactly.
Thank you, ladies.
Hey, Barbara.
Yes. Beautiful. Thank you so much, ladies, for sharing. You've been such a source of inspiration to these women tonight. Because you were where they were not very long ago. And so if you're sitting here listening, we're going to be celebrating you in the future. I'm sure. I'm certain of it. So thank you.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
So for either one, whoever wants to answer, did you, like, before you met your men, did you kind of have this like lingering gut feeling that it was about to happen, but like still obviously not at all?
No. Yeah, actually, I mean, that was the shit, is because it was a month after having been ghosted by this other person, and I was really just like, all I was thinking is, I just need to get out of my house. I want to have a little fun. I'm not, so it wasn't even about looking for the one. It was just, I just want to get out of the house. I want somebody to tell me I'm pretty. I want a reason to get dressed up. I want to, yeah. And that was really, it was just to get out.
Yeah. I was just looking at the consistency of everything and just wanting to get into a second or a third date, or to where we could have that conversation of, are we going to go forward? And, all I was thinking was, well, he's been the one that's consistent. So, but when I walked in and he grabbed my hand, it was just like, okay, this is new.
Yeah.
No, I was the same thing. I was like, yeah, another date. Going on another date.
Yeah.
So cool. I love it. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I'm going to unmute everyone so we can hear everyone, and then we're just going to like put up the sparkles to the sky, and we're going to go woohoo. So give me a second. Ready? Woo! All right, ladies. Good night. Love is your destiny. If you need any support, just reach out to me. You can reach me either instant message me on Facebook under my Kelly Martin Shoe, or you can email me, Dr. Kelly Live. What was that? Oh, is that my kitty? Are they stealing the show? Or actually, Dr. Kelly at pinktent.com will work too. That's that.
Thank you.
Great.